In any condition where the fats are burned, chiefly starvation, advanced diabetes, etc., the RQ will be about 0.7. Whereas with a predominant carbohydrate combustion, the RQ will be approach 1. Number 2, effect of interconversion in the body. With carbohydrates are converted into fats in the body, RQ will rise because in the process an oxygen-rich substance is converted into an oxygen-poor compound, so that some amount of oxygen liberated from carbohydrate will be utilized for purpose of oxidation. Consequently, less oxygen will be needed from outside. Hence, the amount of carbon dioxide produced will be more than the amount of oxygen consumed, so that RQ will be rise when fat is converted into carbohydrate. Just the opposite effect will be produced and RQ will fall. It is therefore evident that RQ value will indicate the following: the type of foodstuffs burning in the body or nature of conversion of one foodstuff into another in the body. Number 3, acidosis. During the acidosis, CO2 compound output is greater than oxygen consumption, so the RQ rise. The RQ falls due to the reverse condition of acidosis, i.e., CO2 output is lesser than the oxygen consumption. Next number is alkalosis. In case of alkalosis, here the RQ will fall because respiration is depressed and CO2 will be retained in the body. Less CO2 is produced. Number 5 is rise of body temperature. It may increase RQ as in acidosis. Rise of body temperature, such as in fever, will cause increased breathing and thereby will wash out more CO2. Diabetes. Next is diabetes mellitus. In case of advanced diabetes, when the little carbohydrate is burning, energy is supplied mainly by oxidation of fats. Hence, RQ will fall in such cases. If insulin is injected, carbohydrates will start burning and RQ will rise. It means diabetes. In case of diabetes, in advanced cases of diabetes, when the little carbohydrate is burning, energy is supplied mainly by oxidation of fats. Hence, RQ will fall in such cases. If insulin is injected, carbohydrates will start burning and RQ will rise. Number 7 is starvation. Here the subject has sole life on its own body tissues. In the first stage, 1 to 2 days, energy is derived mainly from the stored glycogen, so that the RQ, although it falls below the normal 0.85, is proportionately high 0.78, but later on, when energy is derived chiefly from the combustion of fats, RQ will fall still further and will be about 0.7. Next number is voluntary hyperemia. In case of voluntary hyperemia, by this process, excess CO2 is washed out without a corresponding increase of oxygen utilized, so that RQ will be above unity. 9 number is the muscular exercise. With moderate exercise with a normal mixed diet, the RQ remains almost unaltered because in exercise the body uses the different food stuff in the same proportion as at rest. With violent exercise, lactic acid enters blood and produces acidosis. Pulmonary ventilation will be raised, washing out more carbon dioxide. Consequently, respiratory quotient rises and may go above 2 even. During recovery from violent exercise, RQ falls because less CO2 is evolved. Gradually it goes back to normal. Value of determination of respiratory quotient. Now we can discuss value of determining the respiratory quotient. Number 1, RQ acts as a guide as to the type of food burning or the nature of synthesis taking place in the whole body as well as in a particular organ. Number 2, RQ is very helpful in determining the metabolic rate. Number 3, known protein RQ helps in finding out the absorption of the 3 foodstuffs that are being utilized in the body. Number 4, determination of RQ helps in the diagnosis of various physiological conditions such as acidosis, alkalosis, etc. Basal metabolism. Energy in terms of heat produced as a byproduct of totally cellular metabolism is identical for the maintenance of life of organism. Although the amount of energy required for any individual varies directly with the degree of activity and environmental condition, but the rate of energy production is an individual by its overall cellular metabolism is metabolism, and the rate of its energy production at basal condition per hour and per square meter of the body surface is known as basal metabolic rate. The basal conditions are as follows. Number 1, the person should be awake but at complete rest, both physical and mental. Number 2, the person should remain in normal condition of environment, i.e. at normal temperature, pressure and humidity. Number 3, the person should be without food at rest at least from 12 to 18 hours in the post-absorptive state. We can say, number 1, person should be awake but at complete rest, both physical and mental. Number 2, the person should remain in normal condition of environment at normal temperature, pressure and humidity. Number 3, the person should be without food at least for 12 to 18 hours in the post-absorptive state. Thus, the BMR may be defined as the amount of heat given by a subject who, though awake, is lying in a state of maximum physical and mental rest under comfortable conditions of temperature, pressure and humidity 12 to 18 hours post-absorptive after meal. Basal metabolic rate. is usually expressed as the heat production per square meter of body surface per hour. In adult male, normal BMR is about 40 calorie per square meter of the body surface per hour, and in the adult female about 37 calories. The surface area of an average adult is about 1.8 square meters and can be calculated from the following formula by Du Bois. S is equal to 0.0071 into W 0.425 into H 0.725. S is equal to 0.007. into W 0.425. into H is equal to 0.725. One W body weight in kilograms, W body weight in kilograms, and H in height in centimeter, S is equal to surface area in centimeter, S is equal to surface area in square meters. S is equal to 0.007 into W 0.425 into S 0.725, where S is equal to surface area in a square meter, W means body weight in kilometer, body weight in kilograms, and H is equal to height in centimeter. The rate of metabolism at basal condition has been found to vary in different individuals, and therefore the BMR varies with different factors. Number one, age. The BMR of children is much higher than the adult. Rightly speaking, it is inversely proportional to age. In other words, with advancing age, BMR gradually falls. This is due to the fact that children possesses a greater surface area in proportion to their body weight, but in newly born baby, it is slow or low, about 25 calorie per square meters of body surface per hour. In premature infants, it is still lower. Number two, sex. The BMR of the male is slightly higher than the females. Number three, surface area. the BMR is directly proportional to the surface area of subject. Larger the surface area, greater will be the heat loss, and equally higher will be the heat production as metabolic rate. Otherwise, temperature balance will be upset. For this reason, BMR depends upon the surface area. Number 4, climate. In a climatic condition, in colder climate, the BMR is high, and in tropical climates, the BMR is proportionally low. In a different climate, in colder climate, the BMR is high, and in tropical climates, the BMR is proportionally low. Number 5, habit. Trained athletes and manual workers have a slightly higher BMR than persons leading a sedentary life. Habits. Trained athletes and manual workers or laborers or those who have physical have a slightly higher BMR than the persons leading a sedentary life. Sedentary life means just working in offices, colleges and teaching institutes, banks, etc. This is known as sedentary life. Diet. Prolonged undernutrition lower the metabolic rate. Prolonged undernutrition or malnutrition condition lowers the metabolic rate. Number 7, hormones. Circulating level of hormones secreted by adrenal medulla, adrenal cortex, thyroid and anterior pituitary increases BMR once 1 milligram of thyroxine increase BMR by about 1000 calories. In thyrotoxicosis, BMR may increase by 50 to 100% above normal, but RQ remains unaltered since both oxygen consumption and carbon dioxide production increase proportionally in such cases. In Myxoderma, BMR is determined to 30% or even 45% below normal. Anterior pituitary, through its thyroid stimulating hormone, affects BMR. Growth hormone STH secreted by this gland also causes BMR about 20% rise. Adrenaline, epinephrine and norepinephrine increased BMR by about 20% of resting value. Male sex hormone causes a 10% case in BMR. Female sex hormone increase it insignificantly. Number 8, barometric pressure. Moderate reduction of atmospheric pressure does not affect the BMR, but a fall of pressure to half an atmospheric versus oxygen tension 75 mm of Hg as occurs in mountain climbing and increase BMR, but increases pressure of oxygen does not raise BMR. Number 9, pregnancy. In case of pregnancy, the BMR of pregnant mother after 6 months of gestation rises. It is seen that the BMR of the mother is the sum total of her own metabolism as in her non-pregnant state and combined with that of the fetus. Hence, pregnancy exerts no specific effect on BMR. Actually, pregnant women's BMR increased due to the presence of fetus. In a normal condition, BMR same, and at the pregnancy condition are same, but including fetus BMR So in case of pregnancy, BMR will be rate will be exceed or increased. Number 10, body temperature. The BMR increases by about 12% with the rate of 1 degree centigrade, such as in fever, which is due to the fact that increased temperature stimulates the chemical process of the body and thereby increases BMR. Number 11, drugs. Some drugs like caffeine, benzodrine, etc. increase the basal metabolic rate. The reverse is observed by anesthetics. Number 12, racial variation. Natives of Yucatan were found to have their higher metabolic rate than the Americans, whereas Southeastern Asians were found to have much lower rate. Thus, there may be significant deviation in the metabolism according to the race. In addition to the above factors, the metabolic rate of an individual may be influenced by following: muscular exercise, light exercise as sitting and standing, etc. increase the metabolism by 30 to 40%, moderate exercise as walking by 50 to 60%, and severe exercise, hard work by 100% of the BMR. Mental exercise cause a slight rise. Solving mathematical problems increases by 3 to 4% only, but it should be remembered that the basal oxygen consumption of brain is high and amounts to about 10% of the total oxygen requirements of the entire body. Strong emotions increases the metabolism by 5 to 10%. Sleep reduces it by 10 to 13%. Diseases, those who changes the BMR, are found in the following pathological conditions. Conditions increasing BMR: hyperthyroidism may rise up to 100%, fever, cardiorenal diseases with dyspnea 25 to 50%, leukemia 21 to 80%, polycythemia 10 to 40%, and contagious reducing BMR, starvation and undernutrition, hypothyroidism, Addison's disease, lipid nephrosis, etc. Measurement of basal metabolic rate. The apparatus most commonly employed clinically for the determination of BMR is Benedict-Roth apparatus, although the Tissot method and Douglas-Baird method are also sometimes employed. Reads the formula. This formula gives a rough estimate of BMR and is often used as beside. It is as follows: BMR is equal to 0.75 pulse rate plus 0.75 into pulse pressure is equal to 72. BMR is equal to basal metabolic rate is equal to 0.75 pulse rate plus pulse pressure, pulse rate plus 0.74 into pulse pressure. minus 72. Where the PR is pulse rate, where the PR is pulse rate, and PP is pulse pressure. The result comes out as the percentage of the normal and is correct within a range of plus minus 10%. Result will be plus minus 10%. If above 10%, the BMR is higher. If above the 10%, suppose if above the 10% BMR is higher. BMR higher होगा, and if low, then 10% is lower than normal. If low, then 10% BMR will be low. Importance of noting BMR. What is the importance of noting BMR? BMR is equal to 0.75 under bracket pulse rate plus 0.75 into pulse pressure under bracket close minus 72, where pulse rate 0.74 into pulse pressure plus, this is plus minus 10. If increased, BMR will also increase. If this is more less than 10, BMR will also reduced. Importance of noting BMR. For prescribing a diet of adequate calorific value for the diagnosis of various pathological conditions, especially in hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. Number 3, to note the effect of different types of food and drug on basal metabolic rate. Importance of noting BMR. 3 importance of noting BMR is: number 1, for prescribing a diet of adequate calorific value. Number 2, for the diagnosis of various pathological conditions, especially in hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. Number 3, to note the effect of different types of food and drug on basal metabolic rate. Energy, it is a physical concept which cannot be realized but measured, since it is equivalent by its capacity due to the equality of the physical dimensions in both energy and work, although there are different forms of energy: chemical, electrical, mechanical, surface and radiant, etc., which are interconversible, i.e., when one form is produced in equivalent amount of other form disappear, but the total quantity in the universe remains same. Law of conservation of energy. The ultimate source of energy is the radiant energy coming from the sun, which is converted to chemical energy and then to different forms of work in biological system, as in biosynthesis, osmotic, mechanical and transport work. Of the total energy released from the breakdown of the chemical substances, In the biological system, only a fraction of it, known as free energy, is utilized for the work. Second law of the thermodynamics, energy of a system unavailable to do work in terms as entropy. The energy which consumed or released is termed as enthalpy. When the mechanical work is completely transformed into heat, or heat is completely converted into mechanical work, the amount of mechanical work is equivalent to quantity and unit of heat, which is called mechanical requirement of heat. Joule established the relation between the mechanical work and heat mathematically with the help of the following formula. If W unit of work is converted into H unit of heat, or vice versa, we have W is equal to J into H is equal, or W upon H is equal to J. Joule established a relation between the mechanical work and heat mathematically with the help of the following formula. If W unit of work, if W unit of work is converted into H, H is equal to heat. Unit of heat, or vice versa, we have W is equal to Joule into heat. W is equal to J into H, or we can say it W upon J is equal to Joule. W upon H is equal to J, where J is the constant, assuming that all the work is spent in the production of heat and no part of it is wasted by friction, radiation, etc. The constant J is known as the mechanical equivalent of heat, and accepted value of J is 4.184 into 10 to the power 7 arcs per calorie. 1 kilogram meter is equal to 7.23 foot-pounds is equal to 0.00234.3 calories is equal to 0.81 into 10 to the power 7 arcs. Now we can say the constant J is known as the mechanical equivalent. This is the mechanical equivalent. 1 kilogram meter, and J is the 4.184 and J is the 4.184 into 10 to the power 7 arcs. Work may also be defined as the production of force and the distance through which the force acts. When a man lifts a 10 kg weight at a height of 2 meters from the ground, the work done is 10 kg into 2 meter is equal to 20 kilogram meter. But the time factor need also be considered. If a man has lifted 10 kilogram weight at a height of 2 meters from the ground in 1 second, the work is done in 20 kilogram meter per second. If he performs the same work at a same rate for 60 seconds, the total work performed at is 20 kilogram into 60 seconds or 1200 kilogram meter per minute. The mechanical work done can be measured by the different instruments like bicycle, ergometer, treadmill, etc. Next we can start phosphorylation introduction. Certain organic phosphates formed in the tissue out of anabolic chemical reactions play a key role in the energy sections of the living organism. The importance of organic phosphates in the metabolism was first indicated by the study of Harden and Young, who found that fermentation of glucose by cell-free yeast juice increased by rapidly when inorganic phosphorus is added to the medium, which was later converted to originally bound phosphate. The work of Ambaden, Meyerhoff, Corey, and their associates show that the organic phosphates concerned with the metabolism of glucose by yeast are also intermediate in the metabolism of glycogen and glucose in muscle and other tissues. The presence of ATP, ADP, CP and other high energy phosphates compound in the tissue and their participation in different metabolic processes indicate the importance of organic phosphates in metabolism. The sugar phosphates, although not high energy compounds, are obligatory intermediates. Their formation involves phosphorylation by high energy compound ATP in presence of suitable energy. Definition: the term phosphorylation includes all chemical reactions in the body which require combination with phosphoric acid. The reverse changes are called dephosphorylation, where phosphoric acid is dissociated from compound. Physiological importance of phosphorylation: phosphoric acid enters into the composition of cell protoplasm. Hence, phosphorylation is an essential chemical process for all cells. In addition to this, it takes an essential part during absorption and metabolism of different foodstuffs. Its effect in the different channels of metabolism are summarized. Absorption of carbohydrates through the intestinal mucosa and also reabsorption of glucose from renal tubules are helped by phosphorylation. In both epithelial hexose phosphates is formed. This compound undergoes dephosphorylation. Hexose enters the bloodstream and phosphoric acids in left behind. Number 2, fermentation of glycogen from glucose and breakdown of glycogen into glucose in the liver and muscles are delivered to take place through the process of phosphorylation. Number 3. During chemical changes accompanying muscular contraction, phosphorylation takes place at all important steps. As a matter of fact, phosphorylation and dephosphorylation alternately go on in this process. Glycogen is broken down up to lactic acid through the series of phosphorylated compound breakdown and synthesis of ATP and phosphagen are also the example of dephosphorylation and phosphorylation. The phosphorylation of carbohydrates metabolites takes place in the two stages. In the first stage, ADP is phosphorylated by phosphorus Pi to ATP. This reaction can take place only in presence of intact oxidation process that the energy yielding oxidation mechanism is coupled with energy harnessing phosphorylation mechanism. Uncoupling agent like 2,4-dinitrophenol inhibit phosphorylation but no oxidation. They elevate the oxygen consumption rate. The second stage of phosphorylation process is transfer to phosphate group from ATP to the other intermediate. Oxidative phosphorylation takes place in the crisis in the cristae of the mitochondria. Second number is in relation to fats. During absorption of fats, neutral fats and phospholipids are synthesized. In the absorption epithelium, phosphorylation is carried out by enzyme phosphorylase. Number 2, liver synthesizes phospholipids, especially lecithin. It is very important step in transport of fat. It also acts as a primary stage in the further oxidation of fatty acids. Fatty acid oxidation is a function of mitochondria. Number 3, phospholipids enter into the composition of element constant of the cell. Hence, it is essential for cell life. It is believed that each cell can synthesize its own phospholipids locally by a person of phosphorylation. Number 4, cephalin or cephalin, one of the phospholipid, is built up by phosphorylation which initiates blood clotting. Number 3 and small number 1, it is an important step by which all the phosphoproteins are synthesized, such as nucleoproteins, casinogens, etc. Number 2, it is also probable that phosphorylation takes an important part in issue oxidation, during which proteins, fats and carbohydrates are finally broken down. Number 4, in relation to vitamins, some members of the vitamin B group are phosphorylated compound as thiamine, pyrophosphate, riboflavin, phosphate, etc. They are believed to act as coenzyme in oxidation and reduction process in the cell. Number 5, in relation to inorganic salts. This number 1, sodium plays an important part in phosphorylation. Its role is described below. Number 2, acid and alkaline phosphate, which should be regarded as Phosphorylated compounds acts as a very important buffer system in the body. Number 3, complex interrelation between the calcium and phosphorus may be primarily a process of phosphorylation and dephosphorylation. Number 6, in relation to bone formation of bone, i.e. deposition of inorganic phosphoric acid compounds from organic phosphates, is also probably another example of phosphorylation. Next, control of phosphorylation. What is the control of phosphorylation? We can describe it. The enzymes that take part in this process are phosphorylase, phosphatase, etc. Number 2, hormones. Adrenal cortex is believed to be directly responsible for phosphorylation. Glucocorticoids inhibits phosphorylation. Adrenalectomy accelerates it. B. Anterior pituitary by its adrenocorticotropic hormone may exert a superior control on phosphorylation through adrenal cortex. The marasmic condition that develops in disease of the adrenal cortex may be partly explained by the consequent disturbance of phosphorylation, which affect the absorption, metabolism, and nutrition of the body. Growth hormones affect the phosphorylation in a similar way as glucocorticoids. Number 3, inorganic salts. In inorganic salts, sodium may have some effects on phosphorylation. It is believed that adrenal cortex control the phosphorylation by helping the enzyme responsible for the process, but it is also known that many of the defects seen in diseases of the adrenal cortex are rectified by giving enough sodium chloride. For instance, for the defective fat absorption in adrenal corticomine animals improves by giving sodium chloride. It is interesting to note that it is the same adrenal cortex which also controls sodium metabolism. From these observations, it may be suggested that the adrenal cortex controls phosphorylation not by a different action on the enzyme, but an indirect influence on sodium metabolism. Oxidative phosphorylation. Oxidative phosphorylation provides the third and quantitatively most important mechanism by which energy deprived from the molecules can be transformed to ATP. The basic principle behind this pathway is simple. The energy transferred to ATP is derived from the energy released when hydrogen combines with molecular oxygen to form water. The source of hydrogen is the NADH ion plus hydrogen ion and FADH2 coenzyme molecules. The net reaction involving NADH plus hydrogen ion is half oxygen plus NADH plus H ion is equal to H2O plus NAD plus 53 kilocalorie per mole. Since only 7 kilocalorie per mole of energy is required for synthesize 1 mole of ATP from ADP and PI, there is enough energy released in the above reaction to form more than 1 molecule of ATP. The proteins that mediate oxidative phosphorylation to locate in the mitochondria, but unlike the enzymes of the Krebs cycle, which are soluble enzymes in the matrix compartment, the proteins that mediate oxidative phosphorylation are embedded in the inner mitochondrial membrane. These proteins can be divided into two groups. Number one, those that mediate the series of reactions by which hydrogen is transferred to molecule oxygen, and number two, those that couple the energy released by these reactions to the synthesis of ATP. Most of the first group of proteins contain iron and copper cofactors, forming proteins known as cytochromes because in pure form they are brightly colored. They resemble in their structure the red iron containing hemoglobin molecules which binds oxygen in the blood. The cytochromes form the compound of the electrons transport chain in which two electrons from the hydrogen atoms are initially transferred either from NADH plus hydrogen ion or FADH2 to one of the elements in electron transport chain. These electrons are then successively transferred to other elements in the chain, often to or from an iron or copper ion until the electrons are finally transformed to molecular oxygen, which then combines with hydrogen ions protons to form water. These hydrogen ions, like the electrons, come from the hydrogen bearing coenzymes, having been released from them early in the transport chain when the electrons from the hydrogen atom are transferred to the cytochromes. In addition to transferring the coenzyme hydrogens to water, the process regenerates the hydrogen-free forms of coenzymes which become available to accept two more hydrogens from intermediary reactions. Thus, the electron transport chain provides the aerobic mechanism for regenerating the hydrogen-free form of the coenzyme, whereas in described early the anaerobic mechanism is coupled to formation of lactate. At each stop along the electrons transport chain, a small amount of energy are released, which in total amount to the full 53 kilocalorie per mole release from a direct reaction between hydrogen and oxygen. Because this energy is released in a small step, it can be linked to the synthesis of several molecules of ATP, each of which requires only 7 kilocalorie per mole. Overall, 40% of the energy released from this chain of reaction is transferred to ATP, the remaining 60% appearing as heat. All 3 points along the electron transport chain ATP is formed. The mechanism of which this occurs is known as Chemiosmotic Hypothesis. As electrons are transferred along the cytochrome chain, the energy released is used to more hydrogen ion protons from the matrix to the cytosolic side of the inner mitochondrial membrane, thus producing a source of potential energy in the forms of a hydrogen ion gradient across the membrane. At the 3 points along the chain, a complex of proteins forms a channel through which the highly concentrated hydrogen ions on the cytoplasmic side of the membrane can flow back to the matrix side and in the process transfer their potential energy to formation of ATP from ADP and PI. The molecular details of this coupling process are still uncertain. FADH2, which is formed during one of the steps in the Krebs cycle, has a slightly slower chemical energy content than does NADH plus HN and enters the electron transport chain at a point beyond the first site of ATP generation. Thus, the transfer of its electrons to oxygen produce only 2 ATP rather than the 3 formed from NADH plus hydrogen ion. To repeat, the majority of ATP formed in the body is produced during oxidative phosphorylation as a result of the processing of hydrogen atoms provided largely via the Krebs cycle during the breakdown of carbohydrate, fats and protein. The mitochondria where the oxidative phosphorylation occurs are thus considered the powerhouse of the cell. In addition, as we have just seen, it is within these organelles that majority of the oxygen we breathe is consumed and carbon dioxide we expire is produced.